Hi, and welcome to It's the Heart Work, People, Passion, and Purpose podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Terry Ross. This podcast is for people who found their passion and walking in their purpose. And today I have with me a very good friend and colleague of mine, Dr. Tarcia Gilliam-Parrish, and remote we have her colleague, Dr. Renee Meeks, and they've written this book, The Seesaw Effect. Navigating the ups and downs of life with purpose, wisdom, and resilience. And I'm excited to be discussing chapters 9 and 10 with them today. Chapter 9 is finishing strong, and chapter 10 is reflection. And at this time in the year, we have to turn it on to finish strong, and we have to stop and reflect on what we did well, what we need to grow in, and how we're going to strategically plan for the next year. So now I want my guests to introduce themselves and tell us why they wrote this book and who they are.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tarcia Gilliam-Parrish, and on the phone we have Dr. Renee Meeks.
Dr.
Hello.
Meeks?
This is Dr. Meeks. Hello.
And together we are the Power of Engagement team.
Thank you. Dr. Meeks is remote in Germany, and she can't be with us today, but we're so glad that she called in just to say hello. Thank you, Dr. Meeks.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So, Dr. Gilliam, thank you so much for being with us today on It's the Heart Work, People, Passion, and Purpose. I'm excited that you're here because I did not know whether I was going to kick off season 2 of this podcast. I did season 1, it ended in April, and I was wondering, am I going to do season 2? And when you asked me to show up for the Seesaw Effect and discuss chapter 9 and 10, and you said, maybe we can do a podcast, that warmed my heart, and I knew it was time for me to do season 2. So not only is this my first time out remote, but this is also the first episode of season 2, and I have my good friend and colleague with me, Dr. Tarcia Gilliam-Parrish. Dr. Gilliam, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and how did you come to write this book?
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Ross, for this great opportunity. Having a podcast for the second season is a tremendous feat, and we don't take it lightly that I'm able to be here with you. And you're a great person, and I'm not just saying that.
Well, thank you.
And so I have been in education for over 26 years. I started my career as a substitute teacher. And as a sub, I saw the need for passionate leaders. And inside the classroom, I wanted to be that same teacher that gave me the power to know who I was as a child, and I wanted to put that, instill that in the students. And so I became a substitute teacher, middle school principal, assistant principal. I've worked at the district level, and my career has spanned over 24 years. So I'm so excited. The Seesaw Effect came about. Renee and I, we do presentations on the state and the national level with our company, The Power of Engagement. And the Seesaw Effect came post-pandemic, and we saw how the ups and downs of life had transformed us and then those people around us.
Absolutely.
And so this book was birthed from that, and it helped us to learn to navigate, the ways that, the ups and downs of life, because they're going to happen. But if you have a plan in place, then you won't be as shocked when things happen to you.
Absolutely. It's nothing like a plan. And I'm so glad to hear you mention the pandemic, because that's how I started this podcast during the pandemic. I was president of the Parents Club for Earn Your Leisure, which is EYL. And on Wednesday nights, I would have this session with parents because all the children were at home. And it was amazing how many parents just reached out to talk about different methods and strategies to work with their children. And basically what I told most of them is to take a deep breath. Mm-hmm. And after that was over, I just kept saying, hey, I need to be out here teaching. And that's why I started this podcast. And like you, I've been in education myself over 30 years. And I know I don't look like it. I'm just going to compliment myself. But I did my student teaching fall of 1993 at Jackson State University. So this is fall of 23. So I feel a certain freedom.
Wow.
And I feel a certain exhale about myself and where I'm wanting to go. And that's why I'm glad you mentioned the pandemic, because the pandemic gave all of us an opportunity to exhale. Mm-hmm. It gave all of us an opportunity to think about where we were in life, what we wanted to do, and we had time to hear ourselves.
Right. And we have a chapter in the Seesaw Effect called The Power of the Pause.
Chapter
7. And the power of pause talks about the opportunity to disconnect, to unplug so that you can recharge and you can receive those downloads that were meant for you, only for you. But most of the time we are so busy that we miss the downloads.
Yes.
And then we don't recharge. Just like your cell phone has to recharge, you need time to recharge, re-energize, and get yourself together. The power of the pause is so powerful because it's not asking the person to be something different. It's not encouraging you to try new things. It's just simply pausing. Now, when you come out the pause, you may find yourself on a different career path. You may find yourself writing or completing a book, but the power to pause is necessary.
Absolutely. And no, it's not asking you to do anything different. What the power of the pause is doing is asking you to become the person that you were meant to be.
Ooh.
And when you stop and listen to yourself, see, everything that we are and everything that we need, it's already in us. And for those of us who read the good book, we constantly hear Jesus as well as his disciples and other people. He tells, sometimes he just said, I need to steal away. He just go away for a while because he needed to be by himself. And when we take that pause and listen to what's already in us, the next thing we have to do is meditate on that pause, because oftentimes we'll take that message to someone else, and as you stated, that message is just for you. And if you take it to someone else
who's not prepared,
right, or it was not their message,
right?
So it sounds crazy to them,
right?
And so now you've been talked out of your destiny by someone who it was not a conference call. It was just for you.
Talked out of your destiny.
That's it.
Do not allow others who have no vision to create a vision for you, and definitely don't take criticism. And you're not looking for validation, because validation is for parking. And so you are on your own path, and you try every day to strive to do the things that are downloaded inside of you. You stay in your lane and you do that well. Do what you're asked to do well. Do it with excellence. And then you'll find yourself also being open to other opportunities, other ideas, and people will bring things to you that will edify you and them.
Absolutely. So you invited me to talk about chapter 9 and chapter 10, which was the power to finish and the power of reflection. So when you all wrote The Power to Finish, and this is such a great time of year for this, because this is November, we're getting ready to go into the end of the year. This is the final quarter. It's the final quarter for students. Well, not for the year, because students' final quarter come in May, but definitely for businesses. This is when everyone is pushing to make things happen. For families, pushing to make, this is the fourth quarter. So when you talk about the power to finish strong, and you all wrote that chapter, you all told a story at the beginning of that chapter.
We did. And I think that one of the things that Dr. Renee Meeks always says is the only way to ensure you finish is to start. Now, a lot of people start, but they don't finish things. And so we knew that we had to ignite them, accelerate them, but also give them hope. And the first story gave hope. And the moral of the story is that success often comes after many failures. It is essential to never give up on your dreams. No matter how challenging the journey may be, with hard work and determination, achieving your goals is possible. The power to finish is a mindset. Inside of you, what you were downloading. When you were born, you had certain things inside of your DNA that will equip you for your calling. You're called to do certain things. You're called to help other people do certain things. And so what we found was that a lot of people, men and women, would start things and wouldn't finish.
Absolutely.
They would start writing a book and not finish. They would start a job and would quit because things get hard. And so with the power to finish, it encourages you to start small. If you're trying to do something, start small. You can start by just making your bed every day. That's one thing you've accomplished, just to make your bed every day. It gives you a sense of accomplishment, and then you can add to the list. Then you can start next. I would like to go to college. First, you got to do the application. Then you have to find a path that you would like to be on. Don't do what your friends are doing. Don't do what your mom wants you to do or your father wants you to do. You have to do what's best for you, but make sure you do your research so that when the things get hard, and they will get hard, that you'll still have within you the power to finish.
Thank you so much for that. And yes, we do a lot of things that we start and don't finish. And I appreciate you asking me to do this podcast because the average podcast lasts 6 episodes.
Wow. Just 6.
And because I'm in season 2 now with this one, I did not quit. So thank you for speaking to me about this episode. But you're exactly right. I heard someone say, and I think it may have been Steve Harvey said one time, that a lot of people are addicted to the announcement. They want to tell people they got started on something and they don't finish.
Wow.
So this work that I've been doing a lot of reflective and spiritual work. Some people call it shadow work. And what I found out is that when we talk about what we're doing a lot, but we're not actually doing it, there's a part of us, our subconscious, feel like it's actually working on it because you're talking about it so much. So the moral of that story was shut up and work. Stop talking about what you're doing and do what you say you're doing. Don't talk about it, be about it.
Right.
And I appreciate that chapter of the book in this time of year because it's so important that what we start to finish on. And you said something as simple as making your bed. Well, every time I see you, you tell me something about how I'm taking care of myself. This started, and people laugh at my wife. Oh, don't say that. But in January, my New Year's resolution for January of 22 was to grease my feet every day.
Start with something small, something that's doable.
I wear a size 16, so it was not quite small. And that's why I say grease, because my wife said, oh no, say moisturize. I said, you moisturize those 6.5 you have to grease these 16. So.
Oh,
And
God.
I would not let a morning pass that I didn't get my shea butter, and do my feet. And that moved to me purchasing the oil that I did my entire body out of the shower.
Wow.
Then that moved to me doing something else. And then it moved, and it just kept going. It moved into me moving back to being vegan. It moved back to me just a number of things around me, because what I found out is that our environment around us is a reflection of what's inside of us.
It creates that.
Absolutely. And so when you start something and you don't finish, that's because there's something inside of you that's not telling you that you're worth it, that you should. Or sometimes we're afraid of what the outcome is going to be. Are we really ready to make that money
Are we ready?
that we say we want to make? Are we ready to be a millionaire? Are we ready for what that's going to take? Because see, now you can't make all of the happy hours.
Right.
You may not be able to make some weddings and some funerals.
Because you're focused.
Yes, and you're doing some things. And what I found out is most people are afraid of what they're going to leave behind, but turning to loose what's behind you for what's in front of you is much more worth it. And when you're on this journey, you're going to be alone. When you're finishing strong, there's not going to be a cheering squad.
Right.
There's not going to be anyone there saying, keep going. Sometimes it's going to be you. I heard Elon Musk, a guy asked Elon Musk at an event, so what would you say to motivate a new entrepreneur? And he said that if you need motivation, you don't want to be an entrepreneur.
Wow.
Because you got to just do it.
Wow. That's deep. I think that when you said what's inside of you comes out, I often think about a closed fist. If your hand is closed, you can't receive. In order to be prepared to receive what's next, you have to be able to open up your hand and be in the receiving position. You have to position yourself for what's next. But you also have to reflect on what you've done. What did I do well? What do I need to change? What inside of me do I have to give up for what's next? Because you can't make the happy hours. You can't make all the weddings or the parties.
Yep.
You have to be able to focus and reflect so that you can move to what's next.
And those people who are for you, they're going to understand what you're doing, and they're going to be there for you in the end. So you and Dr. Meeks laid out a simple plan for people to get started. And you said that Dr. Meeks always say, just get started.
Just get started. You'll never finish. The only way to ensure to finish
is to get started.
Right.
And I've also heard people say a lot that half of winning is showing up.
Right.
Because if you don't show up, you're not in the game.
You're not in the game.
So one of the things you all said to people is that they needed to identify their goals.
Right.
And then break them down into smaller tasks. And when you set those goals, you need to set SMART goals, goals that you can identify and put a timeline on. Don't say, I'm going to write a book. Say when you're going to get started. And then say how much you're going to do along the way. So what other tips that you all give them to finish, to get started so they can finish strong?
along the lines of setting deadlines, you have to create a schedule. At the night before you go to bed, create your schedule for the next day. Timing is so important. Time is your most valuable resource. You will not get it back, so you need to spend it wisely. So you spend your time like you spend your dollars. Every dollar you have should have an identity. It should have a destination. All your time throughout the day should have that identity and a destination. So when you create your schedule, make sure you stay focused. But one of the things that we often say is that if you do not write it down, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
You have to write it down
Absolutely.
so that to make sure that it happens. And make sure you celebrate your successes. Again, start small. It could be greasing your feet. It could be making your bed. It could be cooking dinner at home.
Yes.
And not going to restaurants. That could be a great, you can start a New Year's resolution today for tomorrow. You don't have to wait till January 1st. You can start every day.
Start practicing for January 1st.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I like that you said start. It could be something as simple as cooking dinner at home, because I think we've lost the art of making a meal and sitting down and eating it. Even if it's a salad, if it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, we've lost the art of that. And that was one of the things that I prided myself on in our family, is that we sat down at least 3 to 4 days a week and had a meal. And also having the children and everybody to participate in that, this family time. We've gotten away from FaceTime in the family, and I'm talking about real FaceTime, like
having
right
conversations and not texting.
They say the average child gets a baby 20 minutes of actual FaceTime from their parents sometimes.
Wow.
Oh, and that's not in a day. In a day, it's about 5 to 6 minutes a day, because it's usually they're on the back seat and they're talking, or the parent is engaged in something and they're talking, but sitting down, getting rid of everything and just talking. And I'm the youngest of 9, and so being in a family of that large, there was a gap between me and my other siblings, so I did have a lot of FaceTime with my mom, a lot of FaceTime with my dad as well. And I can tell that it connected me in a way that
The other siblings to get opportunity.
well, I think they got the same opportunity, because the older ones, they're like my older brothers and stuff, they went hunting and stuff with them. I didn't go hunting that much.
Okay.
We did other things together, because I was into football and going to Upper Bound on weekends, so I was a little different for them. But I just got some FaceTime, and then I got them at a time in their life when they had already practiced on my older siblings.
But
So I got
touched
some of the
on
good stuff.
You touched on a couple of points from the Seesaw Effect. The power of relationships, that's one of our chapters. And the power to perfect practice
Yes.
is one of our chapters. So you
Yes.
just touched on a lot of that. But with the power of the relationship, for us, when we were growing up, food surrounded the relationships that we had.
Yes.
We had a very unhealthy relationship with food. And so now we are now reconnecting and rebuilding that relationship with food to make it a more positive. And food was the thing that brought us together. So anytime there's something that's going on with our family, we know that we're going to have a good meal. And that's where our Sister Soul Seasoning came from. We savored the moment, and we created new moments with our family members by fixing good food and making it taste good.
And now you all have created a seasoning. Do you have the seasoning with you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. It's right over there.
So you all have turned down. Go get it. Go get it. We need to show it to the people.
Show it to
This is a real podcast right here. We bring the people in, showing them that you're about what you talk about.
Not just talking about it.
Right. And I use Tasha Mama Season. I call it Tasha Mama Season. I don't know the real name of it. I have the low sodium version and the regular version.
And so the Sister Soul Seasoning came from my mother. They were the original farm to table family. They started as sharecroppers, and they didn't take it for granted that they knew how to cook good food. And that's how we started Sister Soul Seasoning. But also, it gave them an opportunity to show love.
Yes.
Because through good food, it built relationship, because you had to take time to cook it. You had to take time to enjoy it. And afterwards, you had to take time to talk about how good it really was.
Absolutely, you better do that part. and that's what soul food really is. It's not pig feet and stuff like that. It's really the time that you take to put in the food. And to be honest, I don't want any food that's not cooked with love. I recently had it's nothing. It's nothing. If you didn't want to cook this, I don't want it. I tell my wife, I don't want no mad nothing. If you got an attitude about giving it to me, keep it. I
Right.
want it with love, everything.
We've grown,
Yes.
and matured.
Yes,
and,
yes,
and,
yes,
and
yes.
that we found ways to make our life better through reflection.
Yes.
And again, that's what chapter 10 is talking about, how the power of reflection and thinking back to the good times and things that weren't so good, and figuring out how we can manage that for the future and creating space and time to enjoy each other, but also to say, let's talk about this. That was hard for me. That was a trauma for me, and I would like to talk about it and create that safe space and being brave in this space.
Yes, and we don't talk about trauma because oppression has taught us to be invisible. Oppression has taught us to have amnesia. And so we go through things and we act like it's normal.
Yeah, selective memory, I
Yes.
call it. Because
And it's not normal.
it's not normal, and I don't take it I don't take it lightly that people are emotionally constipated.
Yes.
They cannot share or show their true emotions because they're so afraid of how things are going to be perceived or received.
And then that's why it always come out in an outburst,
Right.
because it's not, you need to have a pressure valve.
Right.
See, it's pressure out here in these streets.
And that's why people who journal
Yes.
are now finding the way to say it. Because
Yes.
once you unload on the journal document, you just write. You're unloading your thoughts, but you're also going to reread it, and you're going to center yourself around a positive conversation, and you're able to frame that conversation so that it can be reflective but also productive.
Well, I would tell you this. I journal, and I'm not a consistent journaler. But most of the time when I'm journaling and there's something inside of me, as I start writing that stuff down, by the time it starts coming out on paper, I say, I cannot believe this is how I'm thinking about this. And I'll stop because it sounds so crazy to me. So it really is good to journal,
Yeah.
because as you put it out, you're saying, I'm worried about something that I don't have control over.
And then you don't spend energy on things that
Absolutely,
don't matter.
absolutely, you see it.
Then you're able to create that schedule for tomorrow, and it don't include being negative or harsh. It includes what you need to do and what you need to do be next. What's next on your list?
So in your chapter 10 on the power of reflection, you had 3 points that I really liked at the beginning. Well, there were actual 4 that I think you have here. The power of relationships, the power of balance, the power of pause, and the power of finishing strong. And so I like the part about the power of balance, because they say there's really not a real key to work-life balance.
Right.
You have to create it.
And
It's
so
something
we
you
call
have to
it
be.
work-life alignment.
Absolutely.
So you're aligning the things that are working for you, but you have to be consistent, because no is a complete sentence. And people will want to put their thoughts and their pressure, oh, I need to do this, I need you to do that. They'll put all that pressure on you, and you're like, no, it's not aligning to what I'm doing right now.
Okay, say that again. No is a complete what?
A complete sentence.
Okay.
You don't have
It's
to
just
add
one
nothing.
word.
You don't have to take it away. You just, it's no.
It's
Can
just
you
one-
know?
Yes.
It's not aligning to where I am now. Now, what happens when you don't reintroduce yourself to people who've known you from the past?
Yes.
So you may have had a nickname, like your name may have been Nunu or Buster or Cha Cha, and so they thought that was who you are now.
A Smokey.
Right. They didn't realize that those names had negative connotations, and that now you are, and so now you are actually in a different position, a different person.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
reflection helps with that, the power of reflection.
So let's look at the power of pause in reflection.
Those are 2 powerful things. They will change your life. Because you're pausing, that means you're stopping and you're not doing things that are not aligned with what you're doing right now. And you're letting go of who you
How
used
you
to
all
be.
doing? Thank you all for visiting us. We have a live studio audience, people. How's it going? Thank you.
But yes, so the power of pause, it causes you to stop. The power of reflection causes you to look at your past. Look at just yesterday. What was yesterday? Oh, I don't want yesterday. I don't want to do that anymore. That didn't serve me.
Yes.
So now I want to do something different.
Reflection plays a role in achieving balance. It allows individuals to assess their priorities and adjust their daily routines as needed. The Seesaw Effect characterizes a recurring pattern of success marked by phases of advancement and enlightenment, followed by phases of decline and reduction. And I think as we are moving toward being our complete selves, being who we feel that God made us to be, we get thrown off because we have these ebbs and flows. And so as we're having these ebbs and flows, we have to have a balance in our life. Let's say this is the balance. So today, I got a new contract. Tomorrow, they cancel the contract. Today, another contract came through. Tomorrow,
That's
something
the
that's
best demonstration of the Seesaw Effect I've ever seen.
And so we can't ever let our emotions get as high as our greatest achievement or as low as our biggest defeat.
Right.
We have to stay constant because we are magnetic people.
Right. But
and how we
navigating
feel
life
is what we're drawn to us. So if you're walking around sad and mad, everything you run into is going to be sad and mad or
Right.
make you sadder and madder. But if you're happy and smiling, then you're going to run across some people to try to take that from you. But you stay consistent with
Right.
that. Life
Right.
is going to give you happiness and joy.
Right. And that's the growth mindset.
Yes.
What you just stated was the growth mindset. You talked about resilience in the ebbs and the highs and the lows.
Yes.
You talk about actually going through life with having accountability for yourself, for who you are and how you appear and how you arrive. But what
Accountability
I was
for self. Let's pause there for a second.
when you change from who they thought you were, when you leave that nickname alone and you evolve from that person. When you evolve from that person,
Yes.
then you move into this whole new person. That's when you got to reintroduce yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that, the accountability piece. And that's what I'm finding that many people, I have accountability for myself. And I know that some days I'm not on my strategic plan. But what I've started doing is not beating myself up when I'm not on my plan. I just go back and start where I left off. And that's where you said writing it down is important.
Right.
Because at least you left the roadmap, you've left the blueprint, something to go back to and get started. But if it's just an idea you've thrown in the air and talked about, you have nothing to go back to.
Right. I often tell, Renee and I, we do business consulting. And I often tell people, don't call me until you're ready. Because I'm activated already. So I don't want to have to activate you and give you a business plan and help you with a strategic plan and show you the timeline. I want you to come to me activated. So that means that you're calling me saying you're ready. I'm not chasing you because I don't need the money.
Absolutely.
I want to help you
Absolutely.
bring your dreams to reality. That's my goal, is to help others bring their dreams to reality. We want to give people the power to engage.
Yes, and reflection is so important with that. I know what I wanted to talk about. The fact that you said write your plans down before you go to bed at night.
Right.
So people, we have a conscious, that's what we see. There's a mic in front of me, there's a phone, a camera, and all of these things. That's the conscious. The subconscious you cannot see. That's that voice that we sometimes hear and we're saying, what's this thing nudging me? That's your subconscious. That's that piece of God that he planted in you when he said, I made you in my image. And that voice, you have to listen to it and listen to it the first time. So when you write down right before you go to sleep at night, that's the last thing that you did. Now, your subconscious mind works on that all night long. And when you wake up in the morning, you're ready to go because that's what you programmed yourself to do.
Right.
So writing that plan down, and that's something that I had started doing a lot at the beginning of the fall, and I've slacked off over the last 3 weeks. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to start back because I'm going to start 2024 off strong. 2023 was my year to be free. And 2024, I'm just going to do it some more.
All right.
So as we end this podcast, Dr. Gilliam-Parrish, is it something that you'd like to share with us? What would you like to leave our audience with about the Seesaw Effect and give them something to start the year strong for 2024?
I want you to know that all things are working for your good. You were created with a calling. You've already been equipped to make sure that that calling is on this earth. You are the only person that can do it. Don't worry about what my gift is. How am I going to hold up? How am I going to do this? Stay in your lane. God has already prepared that lane for you. And remember that success is in your DNA. There's nothing holding you back but you. So get out your own way. Get out your own way. Find some balance and finish strong. Every day reflect on what did I do? It's bigger than a to-do list. What did I do that was going to make me better or help someone else?
Thank you so much. That was so powerful. What did I do to make me better or to help someone else? Thank you so much. So, Dr. Gilliam-Parrish, thank you so much for joining us on this The Hard Work, People, Passion, and Purpose podcast. This podcast is for people who found their passion and walking into their purpose. And the reason I say found their passion and walking into their purpose, because sometimes when we're so passionate about things, we can let our passion overthrow us. But when you know your purpose, you move strategically. And that's what the Seesaw Effect is about. You moving strategically. It's about you creating a plan and knowing where you're going. So thank you so much for sharing with our audience today on this The Hard Work, People, Passion, and Purpose podcast. This is season 2. This is our first episode. So thank you for joining me on episode 1, season 2. It's The Hard Work, People, Passion, and Purpose podcast. And my good friend, Dr. Tarcia Gilliam-Parrish, and we had for a minute remote, Dr. Renee Meeks. So thank you. And remember, someone is always watching you. Enjoy the journey because someone wishes they were in your shoes. Thank you, friend.
That was great.
Yeah.